Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is Knight of Wands in its upright. If this card looks familiar, we have been pulling it over the last couple days. Same exact position. Communication is in a very good place right now. We see a lot of communication is occurring. Good day for planning. Good day for moving forward on things. Good day for having that point of correspondence. We see a lot of this activity that is occurring right now. Why? Because we see, specifically for energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of that work in being able to move forward right now. It's that sense of expediency, that movement or that desire to move things forward in a more effective way. For masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, we see how much that's feeling of expediting or moving forward is occurring right now, because we see that for a lot of the energy right now deep within the divine union, that feeling of being of like minds. What happens when you share the same aspirations and manifestation goals as the counterpart? It almost feels like, again, that sense of determination, that sense of energetic courage that is taking place. And we see even now that a lot of the concentration that we've been recognizing that has been happening here is not necessarily even the communication within the divine union frequency, so much as it is trying to create that fluidness between the energy within the divine union frequency versus the energy without. Right? That ability to almost try to have that kind of feeling of being able to help someone recognize and share your own perception, your own point of view. This is what we see is amplifying and a lot of that energetic movement today. And there's a lot of rapidness today that we see maybe coming into play. But what's important about this is, again, maintaining one's focus, being very intentional in terms of what you are articulating. Because one of the hurdles that we did recognize had to do with a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency right now, navigating anything that may feel more like it is slowing down your own progress, but from a place of compassion, from a place of understanding, coming into that space or place of giving someone what they need in order to facilitate them recognizing and wanting to move in the direction with you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now has to do with that feeling of mounting excitement that is happening around situations and circumstances where we see new potential connections that are taking root or moving at it with a lot of expediency and a lot of determination. Why are we seeing that there's that feeling of excitement that is building up right now for energy coming into the divine union frequency? We saw that even over this past weekend, there may have been a lot of breakthroughs in relationality to feeling that sense of solidifying the energetic experience that you are starting to build in relationality to a connection with a new energetic counterpart. Because that ability of, again, feeling the confidence, feeling the reassurance, desiring the same things, these are energies that have put in the hard work. Right? These are energies that are not just moving towards each other willy-nilly. These are energies that are moving towards each other with a lot of focus, with a lot of intentionality. And that intentionality is the commitment that these energies are bringing forth towards one another at this time. Because these are energies that are not necessarily committed towards each other, but the commitment that they're already seeing reflective in building a strong, stable relationship dynamic from a place of honesty, clarity, and intentionality. That is what is allowing for that sense of reassurance and confidence to take root here, because these are energies that are feeling like they're seeing their manifestation coming into shape around them, but identifying and recognizing that they didn't necessarily just stumble into that modality, that had to do with a lot of that work in terms of making the changes necessary, doing that hard work within the self that is allowing you to be able to energetically connect in a bigger way with another potential counterpart. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation. This is the energy that is moving away from anything that does not feel like it is aligned to them. And the breakthrough that we're seeing here is that feeling of lightness, is that feeling of expediency. Because if these are spaces and places wherein the energy would have held on longer around a situation and circumstance where they weren't seeing what they were aspiring for. This is some of that energetic impatience that is occurring, because this is the energy in separation that is maintaining their focus on their manifestation goals, right? That is simply, and it is going to have a different impact depending on whether you align to masculine and feminine energy. For masculine energy right now, there is that modality of excitement, because if this is a modality of masculine that's working in terms of wanting to build with counterpart energy that is in alignment with them, if these were spaces and places wherein you weren't seeing that manifestation goal being able to be brought forth from a feminine, this is the masculine energy that's not taking it personally. Because if this is the masculine energy has overcome their own ego, the ability to effectively look towards the feminine and recognize that inability to bring forth a manifestation goal after you yourself have done the work to be able to articulate doing so. That is that moment that almost builds that sense of confidence for masculine, because that is the masculine that feels like, again, the triumph and the breakthrough there is effectively feeling like one has achieved a degree of mastery over one's own self. Because this is a masculine that isn't moving towards a feminine that is in a point of confusion and uncertainty and trying to bring them into the manifestation goal. This is a masculine that is almost saying that desire of wanting a feminine that wants what the masculine wants and is able to articulate it. That is what is moving that masculine forward to a certain degree, holding on to their dream and aspiration. While for feminine energy right now, if these are spaces and places wherein you effectively articulated a manifestation goal and you did not see the ability of the masculine to do so in kind, this may feel a little bit more energetically difficult at this time. Because again, one of the things that we're recognizing, if these are spaces and places where this energy has already started to move on, and only at the point of moving on is a manifestation goal being presented, this is a lot of the energy trying to articulate to potential counterpart energy the difference between something that is being brought forth, that is brought forth at a point of honesty, at a point of authenticity, versus something that is brought forth that feels more like something by way of reaction, right? Because when we see a manifestation that is brought forth only after recognizing and identifying what will occur if a manifestation isn't brought forth at the time that it's asked for, it doesn't feel so much like it is an authentic manifestation goal, so much as it feels like a moment or a desperate attempt to try to maintain the status quo. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, that lightning, if you will, that is almost amplifying that certainty that a lot of that energy is taking as they move forward from that space, because that is that energy that is feeling the confidence in their own self and the choices that they're making as they move towards their manifestation goals. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 10 of Wands in its upright. So again, the breakthrough that we effectively see is occurring at this time has to do specifically with that feeling or that sense. If these were spaces and places that there would have been more reluctance in the past to move away from, if it would have been more difficult, what is the breakthrough that the energy in separation is receiving right now? This is the energy that is feeling the lightening of the energetic burden, if you will, from moving away from what's not for them, because they're identifying that if they're not seeing what is present at the time that they are experiencing or asking for it, that is the energy that feels like they are moving away from a situation or circumstance that is already giving indications that of the slowness, of the reluctance, of the resistance that would be required in order to continue to facilitate forward in a connection of that nature. That point that we're seeing right now, that expression of the Gemini energy taking root here, it is the amplification of choice. But what's so beautiful about that is the moment that doesn't feel right. This is the energy in separation. It's like if you're not seeing the ability of a potential counterpart to bring forth a manifestation goal, what the energy in separation is seeing is that there's still a pathway there. There's still a possibility there of something that is being offered and available, but the ability to recognize how difficult that energetic route would be, the ability to almost feel like that sense of like pulling teeth, if you will, right? The ability of almost recognizing that you'd have to be in a situation or circumstance where your manifestation goal couldn't be your manifestation goal. You would have to change your manifestation goal to the desire an aspiration of someone bringing forth their own. This is a lot of the energy that's feeling confident moving forward in this way, because this is the energy that is reaffirming again in separation that the ability to see and receive a manifestation goal from a counterpart energy is not an accomplishment after an energetic bond is formed. It is a requirement to see if one is potential or possible. So that is the energy that is almost maintaining that focus, that is allowing for that easement point, because that is the energy that feels like they are turning away from something that feels like it's already giving indications of being too difficult or too arduous or too hard, right? That's the energy that recognizes that if something's hard to begin with, it's not going to get softer as you go. It's just going to be cranking that up to 11, right? That is like the hurdle that just becomes more profound as you continue forward. So the ability to recognize and understand that lesson, that is a lot of the energetic breakthrough that we see that a lot of the energy and separation is receiving at this time, that is allowing that ability to move forward with a sense of expediency that may be reflective in how much one has changed or how much one has grown. If you're recognizing that maybe even like 10 months ago, you would have been holding on to something much longer for the hope of something changing into something that it is not. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union, this is the energy that is having the breakthrough in this way, because what do we see is happening for energy right now that's coming into the divine union? Is this energy that is building off of possibility? Is this energy that is looking towards someone and saying, I don't see evidence of something reflective in someone, but maybe if I stick around, something will appear that's not there? No. This is the energy that's doing the hard work first. They're not putting the cart before the horse. They're recognizing and identifying. They're articulating upon the direction that they're going in. The commitment of this energy isn't committing towards one another at this time. It is the commitment in the aspiration of where something would go and how one hopes to facilitate moving forward in that way. That is the commitment that the energy is giving one another, because the commitment comes in recognizing an ability of not shirking away from doing a hard thing. That is the energy that, again, recognize that in the modality of articulating to one another what the manifestation goal is, they prioritize the care of the outside energetic person by almost saying to the other person, I'm telling you what I want. That way you can have the amplification of choice as to whether you will join me in that manifestation goal. So for the energy that recognizes the quality and characteristic of someone who would forsake and forego their own manifestation goal for the sense of energetic care and compassion that is recognized and necessary to amplify the sense of choice, of doing something together. This is the energy that already has a commitment bond between each other. But the commitment is not one that bears words, because the commitment that we're seeing in that modality is the commitment of the energy saying, you can see by way of how I conduct myself, the integrity that is the action beyond the words. And the integrity is the ability to build that sense of clarity in terms of where you are and what you potentially aspire something to become. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union, this is the energy facilitating that hard work for energy outside of the divine union. This is energy that is intentionally slowing down their own speed. They're moving much more slowly than they would ideally anticipate or desire to, not even for the sake of one another, but for the sake of the energy outside or surrounding the divine union frequency, because that is that moment of, again, trying to build that sense of momentum. That almost, again, it's almost like that experience that feels like it's the radiance of positivity, sharing that manifestation goal with others. Then that way it almost feels like that amplification of determination, because this is the energy that is grounding their manifestation, not just between themselves, but in all of the energy around them. And whenever we move towards our manifestation goals, that ability of recognizing the impact, feeling that point of adjustment, that is the energy that is being compassionate in relationality to how it affects the energy surrounding the divine union, while also staying very committed on the path work in relationality to where they are going. Because this is energy that is compassionate towards energy outside the divine union frequency, but it is not reactive to it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Third card in our 5-card spread for today. We have here, look at this beautiful energy right now. Why is the energy within the divine union slowing things down for the sake of the energy surrounding the divine union? Because this is the energy that I have to say. This is energy that is not trying to move towards a manifestation goal because they feel like there's going to be a change in their own energetic frequency. This is the energy that is being patient even through their own impatience, because this is the energy that is effectively, basically, building that sense like this is how the energy within the divine union is grounding their manifestation goal into the tangible space by sharing that manifestation goal, not just with one another, but with the energy surrounding the union itself. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union, this is the energy that feels like there is something here. This is the start of something really beautiful. What is the start here that we see is really beautiful? This is that fast and slow that's happening. This is the energy that may not even see or feel something that is happening very rapidly. But the change there, the breakthrough, is seeing how easy, feeling that lightening of the energetic burden that occurs in the sense or the space of building with someone that's committed to making that path work as easy as possible, because this is energy that is building connection via a place of compassion. This is energy that doesn't want to feel that sense of having to carry a burden or trying to guide someone in a direction that they don't desire and aspire to go. This is energy that is slowing down even against their own manifestation goals. I told you, forsaking the manifestation goal at the moment of being able to offer it to another is that sense of feeling and experiencing the hard thing that makes something easy, right? Because that's almost that gift that we give one another when you look towards a counterpart and say, you make something easy, but you recognize that the ability to make something easy doesn't just come coincidentally. It requires a lot of work on the self in the process. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is feeling that sense of breakthrough via the connection to a potential counterpart, but also feeling that sense of reassurance in terms of seeing and recognizing that that work did not just happen in terms of stumbling upon the right person. It required you to find yourself on the way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is why the energy in separation right now, it's not sticking around. It's not sticking around to try to figure out the why. It's not trying to stick around to figure out if these are spaces and places that someone tried to articulate on a manifestation goal, and the potential counterpart was not able to match that same ability. This is energy that's just moving away from something without struggle, because this is also the energy that's trying to do so in such a way, because there's that point of recognizing that if you have to push on someone to give you a manifestation goal, it doesn't feel so much like something that is coming towards you from a place of authenticity, right? It's that moment that almost feels like instead it's coming forth from a place of reactivity, right? When we give something from the heart, we give it willingly, right? When we give something after we see the effect of what will occur if we don't provide it, that is the energy that's doing so less from a place of openness and desire to build with someone, so much as that moment or that desire to try to deliver a manifestation goal for the sake of maintaining the status quo. And that's the energy that if they're recognizing and seeing that, that's almost like further amplifying some of the energy and relationality to the direction that they're moving towards in this way, because that's the energy that almost feels like, again, someone's actions are speaking louder than their words. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is we have here our King of Cups in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this might be this is where we see some of these difficulties or some of these hurdles coming through. It could be a bit of an emotional day, particularly right now for masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Why are we seeing some of this overwhelm that's happening right now in the emotional space of the masculine? Well, let's start first. Let's start first with how this is having an impact on the feminine energy and separation. Because as we articulated here, we are seeing that there's a little bit of this friction point that especially it's having a lot of impact right now. The friction point is having a lot of impact for energy and separation, as well as for some of the energy in the divine union frequency. But for the energy and separation right now, this is a little bit more difficult because we articulated the fact that some of these energies were building new energetic connections, particularly over Taurus season, with someone that you are recognizing that ability of feeling and having the same perception on the past. If that wasn't met by an ability to articulate upon what the manifestation goals are in the future, for feminine, this is why it can feel very frustrating for the feminine, because again, if this is a masculine that's only becoming efflusive, after they see the feminine energy departing, this is why it becomes almost an impossibility vector for feminine energy, because it's in that moment of feeling like a manifestation goal is coming forth, not at a time of being given openness openly and willingly, but in a moment of only seeing the reactivity, only after seeing the effect of not delivering one, that creates a place of impossibility in terms of the feminine being able to take it at face value, because that is the feminine energy that feels less like it is now a manifestation goal, so much as it is someone trying to say something to maintain the status quo. While for masculine energy right now in separation, that ability of identifying and recognizing the same here, this is a masculine energy that is working through. This is a challenge to the self, because as we saw, if this was masculine energy in separation right now that was feeling that desire towards a feminine, but not seeing that manifestation goal present, potentially even feeling like that feminine energy is focused too much on the past, that inability to express the manifestation goals because the feminine energy that has been articulating upon the past is still hoping to manifest the past back towards them. This is the masculine continuing to battle over their own self, because this is the masculine that sees the ability of building a passionate connection with that energy, but feeling in their heart space that it wouldn't be the right thing to do, right? Because that's that moment of recognizing the inviolability, if you will, in terms of what can be achieved in terms of a passionate connection, but recognizing and feeling to a certain extent that the feminine energy's own heart space is blocked or locked because they're not articulating or not able to share in the manifestation goal that you may have already put forth towards them. So this is a lot of that work of the masculine, almost feeling their heart space opening and activating at that time, that feels like, again, that ability of coming into the sense of recognizing and feeling a bigger sense of one's own self by allowing oneself to feel the expansiveness of both what you're feeling, but also not letting those emotions steer you. This is the masculine energy taking that logic-based approach based on the lessons from the past that is guiding them towards what they feel is best. While for masculine, and that is that energy that almost feels like they're protecting the feminine, but again, via the path of integrity that they're finding within the self. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the relief and the release that is occurring right now for some of this energy, because this is almost overwhelming right now. I can even see this. This is a lot of that overwhelm that's occurring. Different feeling depending on whether you're aligned to feminine or masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For the masculine, if you're unlocking those doors, if you're building that sense right now, if you're starting to have this moment of real intimacy with the feminine, you're feeling like that stability that's coming into play. That is that moment of the masculine that is, again, feeling that energetic overwhelm. But that energetic overwhelm that we see that is occurring here, that is because masculine energy, you recognize that you've been cultivating a safe space through which you can build an environment where you can feel free to be your most authentic sense of self. Why are you able to be your most authentic sense of self? Because you're working and you're focusing on building a relationship of honesty and clarity from the onset. So for the masculine energy that's doing that work, this again, it feels overwhelming, because this is the masculine energy that recognizes that in order to build a place where you can be vulnerable, you must first take that step into vulnerability, right? This is the energy that's almost learning to take that leap of faith, learning to take that energetic trust fall, if you will. But that is the energy that feels to a certain extent that they're overcoming like their own sense of self. They're overcoming their own desire to almost flee from that feeling, because they're learning that the more that they share, if this is a space or place where they're recognizing that relief of a feminine that feels the same way, that is that masculine energy that almost feels like that, like the floodgates open, because you feel like it's safe to be your authentic sense of self, that allows for that amplification of what you're feeling, experiencing, and feeling from within. That can be very overwhelming for masculine energy that's feeling that for the first time, especially if you haven't had a state or space where you felt like you were comfortable or safe to do so. While for feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union with masculine, seeing and recognizing a masculine that is working in that space, that is being authentic, that is being open with you, that is, again, even here, like this is the feminine energy reassuring the masculine, if there's that emotional overwhelm, that there's a space or place for it to be like where they are safe, where it is accepted. Like even here we see that a lot of that energy of the feminine, they also feel that sense of the masculine, that they feel safe to be around, because by the masculine energy opening up emotionally to the feminine, that is the feminine energy that feels that experience of a masculine. It's not that the masculine doesn't feel something, it's that the masculine is showing a fearlessness in experiencing all of their feelings that then leads the feminine energy to feel safe with a masculine, even in a moment of experiencing an emotional overwhelm. Because when a feminine energy sees masculine come into an emotional overwhelm, but even in their emotional overwhelm, they are able to navigate with grace and communication and empathy. That is the feminine energy feeling truly safe in the arms of masculine, because that is the feminine energy that can almost express to masculine that says, even at your worst, you are at your best. Even at your worst, you are the highest expression of masculine that I have seen. So we see even here that for a lot of that energy building forward in that space or state of trust, it feels vulnerable, but that's that vulnerability that becomes the strength. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is the empathy that the energy is having towards anything that is outside of the divine union, that may feel like it is more reluctant and resistant in relationality to seeing the divine union move in such a fashion. Because if this is the energy that's trying to move forward very quickly towards something, and some of the energy around the divine union is trying to put those breakpoints there, that is the energy that is trying to navigate forward in a point of like ratio, trying to have compassion, trying to be mindful, energetically mindful of the energy outside of the divine union's point of view, while also lending clarity and perspective on what someone cannot see, versus to hope, with the aspiration and hope of shedding light and shedding clarity. And that's something that is being done in a ratio effect, which is like almost a small portion that is given, but not one that almost like articulates a change in direction. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here the Page of Pentacles. And this is why we see even now there's a little bit of that tough love, if you will, that is coming through. That is coming through here, right? Because even here for the energy within the divine union frequency, I want to say it is the energetic equivalent of compassion with boundaries. Compassion with boundaries. Like that kind ear, but also with a little bit of that blockage point, right? Because that is the energy that is almost open to hearing another's point of view, lending oneself into a point of curiosity and adaptability, the qualities of the Gemini season, but also having that limitation vector in recognizing what feels like it's moving you, like potentially trying to move you off of your own target, right? So that's why we see even now that's going to vary depending on the particular situations at hand here, right? Because if this is reluctance and resistance in someone understanding, right? Like it almost feels like that moment of trying to be present to hear what someone has to say, but then almost having to put that like that pause point in to say, okay, now you have to give back the same courtesy. Like now is like that moment that feels like that giving, like that is that moment that feels like that sense of helping someone recognize where they might be off, or where they might be like what might be the something that they're not seeing or recognizing, right? So that's why we almost see a lot of the energy right now in the divine union frequency being very navigating something with a lot of like I want to say active listening, if you will. That's that moment of not being reactive, to be able to recognize what someone is missing that may be creating some of that energetic overwhelm. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is the energetic equivalent right now of the closure that this energy is experiencing. This is why we see even now that some of this manifestation goal, even if these are not energies that are committed towards one another, this is that moment that we see that sometimes energy says, regardless of what happens, I'm really glad I met you. Why is the energy coming into divine union, feeling that sense of gratitude towards one another? Because seeing in the moment that we see how easy it can be, it sheds light on anything that wasn't that. So the ability right now, the ability of the qualities and the characteristics that this energy is providing as they build forward into a new connection, is building context and clarity for the energy to maintain and understand closure on what did not work, right? If this is feminine energy that is feeling the relief of experiencing a masculine that was willing to forego their manifestation goal by being honest to the feminine, that moment of modality of choice, that is the feminine that's almost, again, healing those past wounds and recognizing the spaces and places in the past wherein masculine energy may not necessarily have even been able to offer that to the feminine. And that is that moment that, again, can feel very more frustrating. I'm going to say more frustrating, more triggering for feminine, recognizing that, because that almost feels like the feminine that almost can sometimes feel like they were robbed of something, if you will, like something was withheld. And that's hard for the feminine, because the feminine can't tell in those past experiences if that was something that was intentionally withheld, or if it was reflective of a masculine that had not done enough of the work on the self to be able to provide it. While for the masculine energy coming into divine union, this is that moment that feels overwhelming, because this is that moment that you're recognizing the changes that you made within your own self, coming into that point of vulnerability, potentially even breaking that template of what you were taught or told you had to do as it relates to interacting with feminine, that is allowing that sense of breakthrough, because that's that moment that when you allow yourself to feel the things that you feel, when you allow yourself to trust the feminine, you recognize that you build the context wherein the feminine has the ability to show you that that trust has a safe space within them. You can't earn trust without allowing for a point of vulnerability. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is why the energy is moving forward so effectively and so quickly. Because this is the feminine energy. If there's a point here where the masculine wasn't bringing forth a manifestation goal, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is the thing that's bittersweet for the feminine. The feminine does not know. The feminine almost recognizes and says, I guess I'll never know if that is due to a masculine that is intentionally withholding a manifestation goal because they fear that I will not share it, or desire to share it, or this is a masculine energy that hasn't overcome their own fear of the self enough to be able to be vulnerable to me. And that's the feminine that, again, feels very sad in that context, but also relieved, because that's the feminine saying, one's easier to bear than the other, one lends more sympathy, but they both result in the same outcome. And that is why, again, the feminine energy, taking a little bit of that tough love approach, moving forward with compassion and the hope that that's a masculine that will recognize and understand that point of when they're ready to be able to articulate in that fashion, they'll be able to do so from a place of like openness and clarity, not in something that feels like it's being withheld and reactive or forced, right? That's not a feminine energy that wants to force a manifestation goal out of a masculine, because it loses authenticity in the moment it feels like it is forced. While for masculine energy right now in separation, this feels more like a feeling of overcoming one's own desire. Because if this is a masculine that's moving away from a feminine that wasn't able to articulate the manifestation goal, this is also a masculine that potentially recognizes that the potentiality for connection is very present in there. The problem is, it would only be a passionate connection. It would only be a passionate connection. It would be a connection that was built upon passion, not direction. And this is the masculine that's reaffirming their own commitment of not wanting to build a world of illusion around the feminine, not just wanting to build something that feels like it is singularly faceted, because this is the masculine that recognizes that it's in the moment that they can't share a manifestation goal with feminine that immediately feels like a wall is created in relationality to what they're experiencing with the feminine. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Wands and its upright and our Ten of Wands and its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Look at all of these wands out today. A lot of wands out today. Heavy Gemini energy here. Here's the thing, and I have to stress this. This is not about taking the path of least resistance. I can see how this could in some way be perceived as energy taking the path. No, it's not the path of least resistance. Because do you see how hard it is for some of this energy and separation to move away from something that they would desire and aspire a different energetic outcome on, but they're taking the reality of the facts that they're seeing at hand? This is the energy that's recognizing that in past experiences, the inclination, like this is the energy that's fighting against their own self, because this is the energy that in the past they would have recognized that they would have struggled more, that experiencing this hurdle would have been something that they'd be willing to take on, something that they would have been willing to fight for. But why is this energy moving in this way? Because the energy already has the experience of wisdom to guide them. And this is the energy in separation that is remembering and recalling the gift of the past, that is reasserting the pathwork of recognizing that when we move towards a difficult situation, that's not us manifesting our desire. That is us relinquishing our manifestation and choosing, making the intentional choice, saying to the universe, I would like the difficult thing. I would like to move into the conflict space. I would like to go into the space where I have to struggle and battle for the things that I desire, instead of recognizing and moving towards the ones that are immediately already in alignment towards me. So this is why this energy right now is able to move through something a bit more like a duck, water off a duck's back, because this is the energy that's not looking at something and saying, ooh, goody, a challenge. I can't wait to throw my manifestation goal out the window and just try to like focus on getting a manifestation goal out of someone. This is the energy that's saying, if I move towards an energy that is showing a reluctance in articulating a manifestation goal, I am making that integral choice of choosing an energy that is going to be a struggle with, right? That's like standing in front of a cupboard looking for salt, not seeing salt, and saying, I'm just going to stand here and stare at the cupboard, and hopefully salt will appear where salt is not, instead of just moving towards moving towards another cupboard. Like, this is the energy that's just recognizing and saying, why, like, choosing difficulty is saying, I'm choosing difficulty. I'm making the choice of saying, I want the difficulty. And this is the energy that is effectively feeling, even now, the breakthrough point is experiencing and seeing to themselves, moving through their own self, making the choice of choosing not to go into the space of struggle. That is the energy that's choosing their own, they're fighting against their self and their own ability or desire to want to choose something that feels like it's difficult. Like, that is the internal navigation point of the self getting corrected there for a lot of the energy and separation. And it's not easy, right? But it's like making that easy choice is the hard part, right? That's what we're seeing that's happening right now for a lot of the energy and separation. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that's like, I didn't even realize how much I was struggling, because I'm finally moving towards someone that I don't have to struggle with. This is the energy that is feeling the release and the relief of having navigated through their own sense of focusing on what it is that they're aspiring and desiring. And in the moment of realizing it, the moment of seeing how easy it can be when you make the choice of the energy that's in alignment, it makes you recognize how you may have chosen those spaces that were giving the identification point of always being a struggle in the past, right? Because this is the energy that feels like they're getting clarity, but it's not just the clarity of what you experience, it's the clarity of the choices that you made that allowed you to carry that energetic burden as far as you did. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work that we're effectively seeing that you're doing right now is bringing energy on board. This is that heaviness, right? That heaviness is on the outskirts or the periphery of the union, if you will. And this is that energy that feels like, again, the ability of grounding one's manifestation goal into the tangible space is expanding beyond the energy within the union. That is that moment that almost feels like that amplification of bringing others along for the ride, if you will. And that's that moment that, like, the minute you try to do that, it feels like it's harder, right? Because you're trying to, like, you know, bring that same feeling of clarity towards someone, even in a moment of resistance. But this is the energy that is recognizing in the process of doing so and communicating what those manifestation goals are, what energy feels like they're coming with them. Like, what energy feels like they're also in that direction, like feeling that amplification of that burden that's shared, or that goal or that manifestation that is joined upon, versus the energy that is just showing that they're going to be reluctant, that they're just pushing it away, that they're not amenable to it, that they're just resistant for the sake of being resistant. Right? And this is the energy that's not trying to change those modalities. This is the energy that's just observing them coming into play. Continuing to get clarity between our 10 of Wands in its upright and our 5 of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Got our 10 cards out here. We've got our 10 of Swords in its upright. So what's beautiful about this here, again, it's acceptance. It's just acceptance. There is, I need to stress this right now, there is an easement point, if you will, of just like accepting the facts at hand to a certain extent, just allowing that observational point, because this is not the energy that we're seeing right now that feels like it's trying to like, struggle against something. It is just observing, taking accountability, allowing for that point of flexibility. This is the energy that's effectively just, like it's like accepting the reality as it is, just letting that perception guide to a certain extent. For masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is that moment I told you. That's either, this is more of that Gemini energy. It's moving into that binary of, again, looking towards someone, bringing them into that point. Like all you can do, this is almost the energy within the divine unions, like articulating their perception and leaving it in that space or place of basically saying like, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like that's almost that moment of being like infinite compassion in expressing something, but also, again, surrendering the energetic outcome in relationality to how someone else chooses to accept it. So much like we saw the energy was doing for one another coming into divine union, this is the energy that's almost coming into that same state or space for the energy surrounding the divine union frequency, because this is the energy that doesn't feel like they're doing so, and they're focusing all their time and attention in trying to like bring someone up to speed to such an extent that they're willingly coming towards the divine union in this way. This is the energy that says, like, almost like takes that point and says all we can do is do what we can. What someone chooses to do with it, that's up to them to a certain extent, right? And that easement point, like that open palm, if you will, that is that moment that, again, what is beautiful about that is that's that energy that like is recognizing, again, it's like it doesn't feel like its desire is to like bring others with them. It's almost that moment of like, letting someone know, saying this is what you can expect. What you choose to do with it is entirely up to you. Like that's that moment that it's surrendering. It's like, again, it's surrendering the outcome, if you will. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the closure. This is a closure on the past experiences. This is a closure. I told you, closure is not received by going backwards. Closure is received by going forwards. So if these are energies, look at these double 10 cards here. If these are energies that are just receiving the breakthrough of how easy it can be to facilitate a healthy connection with someone from a point of clarity, from a point of just having that moment of the manifestation goal expressed, recognizing that that's not a promise of commitment towards it, but just that sense that the promise is giving each other the honesty, that point of allowing for that amplification of choice. This is the energy that feels like they have reached a point of closure with the past, because this isn't energy that's holding on to the past anymore. This is energy that is feeling like they've overcome the obstacle of the past, and they're now seeing the easement on the other side of a difficult energetic lesson. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation, this is the energy that's recognizing, and even now, the closure point of the energy in separation is the closure point within the self, identifying the possibility of taking the hard road with another person, potentially even a new energetic connection that's not giving you that clarity in terms of what they're trying to manifest. And the energy seeing their self and going, I have a choice to make here. I can move towards the energy that's already articulating to me how difficult that road is going to be. Or I could choose not. I could choose the easy path, which is not the energetic equivalent of someone that's articulating even beyond words, just via action, how difficult it is going to be, right? That's the energy. It's like, I'm just going to not choose. Like even here, we see that the energy is like recognizing the amplification of choice about whether to kind of move back into the modality of the past lesson, right? Of going through the past lesson, hoping for a different energetic outcome, or just choosing differently. So that's why we see even now, like that energy is recognizing and saying, yeah, I had a breakthrough. within myself. And that's the breakthrough that's helping a lot of this energy move with a lot of easement away from something that they're already recognizing is becoming too hard at a point that it should be feeling easy. Continuing to get clarification between our Five of Wands in its reversal and our Page of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal. For masculine and feminine energy and separation, this is the energy that is keeping its focus on, again, a strong foundation is established with clarity in relationality to what you want to build with another person. So this is why we see even now that for a lot of this energy, they're moving in that binary to a certain extent and almost saying to themselves, if they don't see the ability of a potential counterpart to be able to articulate on what they want going forward, what they want to create, recognizing that that's not a commitment towards another, but that's just the observation of someone who looks towards things in that aspect. This is the energy in separation that's almost reaffirming to themselves and saying, I can't build from nothing. I can't build from nothing. And that's the energy that, again, recognizes that when they're not in that modality, when you don't understand what you're creating with another, then you're focusing, you're forced to spend all of your time, all of your energy in a moment or a modality of complete and utter confusion, right? Because that's that moment. It feels like you're in something, but no one will put words to it. You feel like you're inhabiting a space, but it's a liminal space. And that's the energy that recognizes and says, there's a possibility of a connection there, but that's the energy that's saying, I'm offering you a liminal space. And the energy basically saying, if I accept a liminal space, I can't expect the liminal space to become something that is clarifying, because that's the energy that's taking things at face value. And they're not wondering as to why. They're just experiencing and saying, this is what I can expect from this going forward. They're just accepting it. So we see even now that a lot of that energy in separation is having a breakthrough point in what they will no longer accept. That's the energy that's saying that the choice here, the shift that's occurring, this is a lot of energy in separation that's going to go back and say everything changed when I stopped accepting nothing, when I stopped accepting confusion, when I stopped accepting a lack of clarity, right? That's the no that leads us to our yes. When we talk about manifestation, it's not like you sit there and you hold a dog and you say, I'm going to wait for this dog to turn into a cat. You have to work, you have to move towards what you aspire, even against, by identifying and saying, this is what I don't want. So we see even now a lot of that energy having a breakthrough and recognizing that that breakthrough is occurring within the self. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that's having that breakthrough point. But the breakthrough point is also coming from the perception of further clarity that's happening in the moment that you're receiving something, that's shedding light on what was not working in the past, what one was accepting in the past. So if these are energies that are being very clear in terms of what you're building together, even if it's not there, it feels like it's there because you're able to articulate it, you're able to identify it, you're able to recognize where you are, and even the ability to amplify upon that. That is why this energy, even coming into divine union right now, is almost saying to one another, regardless of what happens, you've helped me more than you know. Because recognizing and seeing something from that modality, that isn't something that's lost, that's something that's remembered. And that's something that the energy, even regardless of the energetic outcome here, will carry forward with themselves. That's allowing for a point of closure on past experiences that did not provide same. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is the energy that recognizes even now that what they're trying to do, I told you, is bring that tangible element into something that is happening energetically between them. So even now there's that moment of, again, like laying that foundation, building new ground. And even here we see that this is why there's a little bit of that energetic patience here, particularly around energy outside of the divine union that may feel a little startled or surprised about what they're seeing that is occurring. Because that is almost that energy that feels like they're coming from a state of compassion, and like that sense of like what happens like when you drop a pebble in a water. It's like there's going to be ripples. You just need to give it a minute to see like how it settles. So we see even now like that's the energy, being very empathetic and compassionate for anything that feels like it's a bit resistant. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Pentacles in its reversal and our King of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Pentacles in its reversal. Speaking of those ripples, because what we're effectively seeing right now, for a lot of the energy in this modality, if you will, there's that feeling of understanding. There's that feeling of empathy. There's that feeling of trying to help someone or trying to effectively bring, I want to say, this, and it's all about that feeling of ratio to a certain extent, right? Because this is the energy that is doing everything they can to try to facilitate something that feels like it is productive, while also recognizing and maintaining the difference, like utilizing their powers of observation, if you will, between that moment that feels like the energy that's coming around because of a lack of understanding and saying, thank you for clarifying, I can see now, versus the energy that's just volatile and resistant to something coming into being, right? Like that is almost that moment that we're recognizing. And there's that moment. But again, what's valuable about this, and this is what's so beautiful about the energy within the divine union, the energy in the divine union is not reactive to what is outside of it. This isn't energy that moves based on what's around it. This is the energy that sets the energetic standard to a certain extent. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is doing a lot of work to try to navigate forward in such a way that they are energetically empathetic, if you will, but also not overly sympathetic. Right? Because if there's a point of resistance that this energy is hitting in relationality to their plans going forward or trying to bring something into a tangible space, there's that moment that, again, I want to say sympathetic, but not adaptable, right? Sympathetic, but not adaptable, because that is that moment that almost feels like that express point of like bringing something into being, is that moment of saying like, well, again, I want you to be in a space or place that you can appreciate it. I mean, but that's not something that feels like that point is like leveraging something to such an extent that someone's going to change something, right? Like that is the difference. Like that is the difference here, because that is the energy that's saying like, I would love for you to be like, I'm like, it's like that moment of like saying to someone like, I would love for you to be a part of this, but recognize that it will still be there if you're not. Like that's the energy. Like that's the energy that's basically saying that. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy. Like this is the energy. Like, and I got to stress this is going to be different depending on whether you align to masculine or feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is why oftentimes when feminine energy has breakthroughs of this nature, it sometimes can create a lot of volatility or a lot of frustration, because in the moment of the feminine receiving something that feels like it was such an energetic struggle before, well, I mean, you have to have some empathy there. Imagine something that you feel like if every other space and place that you went felt like you were trying to pull teeth, felt like it was so difficult, and then suddenly something is given with easement. This isn't the feminine energy that is recognizing Like, it is not the feminine energy recognizing their own accountability and the choices that they made that amplified that feeling, but it's also the profound frustration and looking back on those situations and circumstances, and in the feminine energy asking themselves in those moments, was that resistance in sharing the manifestation goal so easily? Again, that impossible question, was it intentional on the part of the past masculine energy? Or was it reflective of a masculine that was not confident enough in one's own self to be able to express or articulate or share it? That's that feminine energy, again, feeling the frustration of saying, I guess I'll never know. But it doesn't matter because it rendered the same outcome. While for masculine, that ability of seeing and experiencing that is that moment that you feel like, in a way, and that's the difficulty here. This is the burden that a lot of the healed masculine is working through right now, because this is the masculine that feels like if you're in that space of healing, suddenly you become Atlas. Suddenly it feels like you have to carry all of the burden of the unhealed masculine energy on your back, because there's that moment that you recognize that it makes it difficult to move forward in your own progressive journey, because you have to work so much on healing the wounds, healing the injuries, healing the energetic wounds that occurred in the potential of a connection that could be moving more effectively or more quickly as a result of masculine energy that did not lead forward from a place of openness and honesty and clarity towards feminine. And again, that's masculine also looking at those circumstances and situations and saying the same feeling as the feminine. You don't know if those past experiences that feminine experienced were a result of a masculine that was not in a point of emotional growth in order to be able to facilitate a healthy connection, or if it was intentional on the part of the past masculine energy. But it feels like you're in the space or state where you recognize that the important thing is that you can change that you have the ability to change that. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is the energy that's raising the energetic standard. This is the energy that says the way to change it is by what one can accept. This is the energy that's basically saying, this is the energy that's basically looking towards situations. And this is the feminine feeling the same vibration as the energy coming into divine union, which is, again, if they're moving away from a masculine that wouldn't reveal or articulate a manifestation goal, feminine's like, I guess I'll never know. I guess I'll never know if that's because the masculine has lacked the confidence of doing so, or if it's intentional. But the feminine's saying, I'm not sticking around to find out, because the same lesson of the energy within the divine union's coming down to the energy in separation, which is, if it's the same, you can have empathy for it, you can give them the benefit of the doubt, but it doesn't matter because the result is the same. While for the masculine energy in separation, this is the energy of saying, I don't want to be in a space or a relationship that feels like we don't share the manifestation goal. I don't want to build into a connection where I feel like I bring the feminine forward with me only to discover that they decide that they don't want to be there. This is the energy of the masculine that's, again, fighting back their own inclination to potentially build a passionate connection with a feminine that's made themselves potentially available to the masculine, but does not show an ability to articulate upon their manifestation goals, because this is the masculine energy that's articulating and saying to a certain extent, I don't want to be in a connection with feminine that doesn't know what they energetically want. Because that often becomes just an experience of the masculine hearing again and again and again what the feminine doesn't want. That's already giving indication of a feminine that is good as potentially articulating what they don't want, but hasn't found the point of resilience to be able to articulate what they do want. So we see even now that both of these energies in healing, doing a lot of those breakthroughs within the self, in being able to recognize and facilitate. Again, do you see how these energies are finding each other in this way? Do you see how that's the no that's leading them to their yes? Because that's that moment of again, via the energetic selectivity. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. And a lot of that is, again, trying to avoid something that they're already starting to feel is moving in a direction that they don't feel is going to be valuable or viable. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Wands and our Ten of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. 7 of Cups in its reversal. Manifestation does not require you to make a choice and then expect that choice to change. You can't make a choice and say, I'm manifesting that my choice changes into something that it's not. Manifestation is the regulation of understanding what it is that you're moving towards by the amplification of moving, recognizing what you're not moving towards. So that is that moment that even here, the breakthrough that is occurring for a lot of the energy in separation is the acknowledgement and feeling that sense of self, of being able to relinquish what is not your manifestation goal in order to focus on what is. So a lot of the energy right now is just refining their manifestation goal in separation by being able to really like put their nose on something and say that is not what I'm looking for, because that is the energy that, again, this is also the energy that's almost saying in separation, I am manifesting energy that is able to articulate on their manifestation goal. Because this is energy that says, I don't want to feel like I need to throw away my manifestation goal, my dream, to be able to make my dream the hope that someone will literally just share their dream with me. They'll just articulate it. That's the energy that says that's bonkers. That's the energy goes, that's bonkers. That's the healed energy going, and that's the energy saying, recognizing and saying to themselves, why would I do that? Right? Continuing to get clarification here for the energy coming into divine union. This is the energy that is immediately receiving closure because they feel like they're experiencing their manifestation goal. And if that manifestation goal was as simple as the energy going, I'm manifesting energy that's able to articulate upon their manifestation goal, the energy is going, oh my goodness, this means I can have a new manifestation goal. This is the energy that's like, I can articulate. I don't have to just sit there and play a wait and see game to see if that's going to occur. That's the energy that's feeling that excitement, because it's like the struggle is gone. Right? It's like the energy that's like, regardless of where this goes, it's already where it needs to be because there's clarity as to what it is. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union, this is the energy that is amplifying and articulating upon their own choices. And what's beautiful about this is the energy within the divine union is effectively amplifying towards others what those manifestation goals are, and kind of taking a little bit of a take it or leave it approach in relationality to how that, what that engenders in the energy around them. Because that's that moment that we're effectively identifying that, again, the energy within the divine union isn't adaptable. It doesn't come into divine union based on what the energy around it feels, right? That's the energy that's again, trying to be the room. They're not trying to adapt to the room. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is having that modality of, again, identifying the difference between energy that feels like they need they need a minute, right? They need a minute, right? And putting in that work and giving that sense of accountability versus experiencing and feeling things that may be reaching closure points around that energy as they see and recognize that they're moving towards their manifestation goals together. That comes part and parcel with moving into divine union. We've talked about this. Divine union energetically changes things around you. Some doors open, some doors close. This is what happens whenever we engender or we make a different change within our own lives. So that ability of coming into that state of recognition, that ability of coming into that state of understanding, that is the energy that isn't affected by it. That is the energy that feels like it just further amplifies the choice of the prioritization of the energy of the divine union, because the divine union is the affirmation of prioritizing the connection, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Swords in combination with our 3 of Pentacles in its reversal. This is the Empress in its reversal. Okay? Masculine and feminine energy. This is like a bit of that, this is a bit of that work that we see that is happening right now. And I have to stress this, it is having a different impact depending on whether you align to feminine or masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For feminine energy, and this is why I'm going to tell you right now, I want everyone, I'm going to say it because I keep seeing this coming up. I want everyone to continue. I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it today. I want you to watch your words. I want you to ask yourself if what you're bringing forth feels like it is productive or if it feels like you're matching energy here. Because we do see that there's a little bit of this, I want to say like a little bit of this like frustration, if you will. And this is happening. Masculine and feminine are matching each other here. Look, you see, we got the King of Cups in its reversal. That ability of feeling frustrated within the self, right? That's that moment that we see even now is creating that sense of, again, there's breakthroughs, right? There are breakthroughs that are occurring here. There's new ground that is coming into play. There are things that are shifting here. There's also a lot of that ending. There's a lot of closure energy that we see is happening at the same time. Really important not to overly internalize something that is externally happening around you right now. Because again, that ability of seeing and recognizing that is creating effectively a space and place wherein the energy is working on doubting of the self or doubting of one's own ability. And even here we see that this is the gift of the energy within the divine union acting as clear mirrors for one another. Because if these are spaces and places wherein those tendencies are there, right? Those abandonment wounds, those moments of being too hard on oneself, this is the energy that is acting as a clear mirror that's almost saying to one another, you have a tendency of being too energetically hard on yourself, right? So this is almost the masculine saying to the feminine, you have a tendency of overly internalizing an external problem, right? While for feminine, if this is a masculine that is feeling a lot of that emotional overwhelm, this is a lot of the feminine energy saying, it's okay to feel how you're feeling. It is safe to feel how you're feeling. It's not a weakness or a vulnerability to have a lot of emotionality on something. It is a strength. So we see even now that these are energies that are supporting each other through those frustrations by fortifying and acting as clear mirrors to one another and helping them recognize that during these periods of transition, they can feel like, I'm telling you, it's that Gemini energy. Like, is something ending or something beginning? Is something ending or something beginning? Is everything falling apart or is everything coming together? It can feel a little bump, 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 bump. It can go back and forth a little bit. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is what I meant with that what occurs when we reach closure. Closure is a quiet door, but it can have an impact. It's having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy here. Because if this is feminine energy that is seeing how easy it can be when masculine is willing to put in that work of being vulnerable, when masculine makes that intentional choice of building in a place of honesty and clarity, putting the consideration and care and conscientiousness and empathy towards the feminine first, it reframes a lot of the past. And some of that closure that we see is occurring right now is the reframing in the feminine energy's own psyche in relationality to what they may have experienced in the past and seeing it from a different perception or a different perspective. So we see even now, if that's that moment of the feminine coming into their manifestation goal and being like, why do I feel so like, that might be why. So if this is masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is feeling emotionally overwhelmed because you're building in that pathwork of intention, because you're making it your intention to try to cultivate and create a safe space towards feminine, but you recognize that you're doing that via your own connection to one's own self, your own ability to be in touch with one's emotionality, that your own ability to build forward in this way. This is a hard-fought path for masculine, because this may have been the result of a lot of energetic experiences of loss, where again, you may recognize and identify something that you wish that you'd done differently, that you're now doing differently. So again, what's the masculine and feminine energy working through right now as it relates to past experiences? Masculine, letting go of regret. Remembering the present is a place that we can always amplify and build forth in a sense of adjusting and correcting for past mistakes, right? That's the forgiveness of the self in the present experience. For feminine, that is that modality of recognizing and identifying and letting go of the anger, letting go of the frustration, letting go of even potentially the rage that may arise in moments that you look towards the past from a different lens or with different optics, right? Because that's the energy that's, again, not trying to become overly focused on the past, but trying to move forward in that approach that allows them to move forward and recognize that this is that breakthrough point that allows for that sense of clarity, but also requires that moment of keeping one's focus maintained on what you're creating forward, right? Like that can feel devastating even at the moment that something is feeling groundbreaking. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is the energy that's saying, no way, no way. Because if these are energies that are just coming out of cycles, that they had to go through these intense lessons, right? Going through those intense lessons and then having the ability of just starting up again. This is the energy that, again, it's a little bit of that princess and pea approach. This is energy that, this is almost the energy that they made me saying to themselves, am I being too picky? And this is the energy going, no. This is the energy going, no. This is energy saying, like, if things are starting off on the wrong foot, that doesn't mean that things will get better. This is the energy that says, I'm recognizing and identifying that, like, a good, like, especially if these are spaces and places that they're looking back on the past now with a point of reaffirming their commitment to the forward. This is the energy that may be remembering and being like, nope, I'm remembering that time, that past experience, it was always off. It was always off. It never got better. It got worse. It got worse. It got worse. It got worse. That's the energy that remembers that small thing typically does not just poof and go away. That's that small thing that tends to amplify the deeper you go. And that's the energy that's almost remembering and reaffirming that and saying, if I'm seeing that there, I'm not going to assume, I'm not going to build into a pathwork of assuming that something I'm seeing is going to change. I'm going to assume that what I see is what is present. And that is the energy that's almost, again, becoming very selective and saying, I need to make sure I'm choosing what I desire, not moving towards what might inevitably become devastating in the long run. For feminine, I'm going to tell you right now, if this is energy, I'm going to tell you right now, if this is energy that feminine is only receiving a manifestation goal after they've tried to end something with someone, this could lead to a lot of reactivity on the part of the feminine, because again, that's a feminine recognizing the difference between a manifestation goal that's freely given versus someone delivering something to try to maintain status quo. Different things. While for masculine, again, this is a little bit more difficult because this is a masculine. If this is a feminine that like is not able to articulate upon what they want, this is a masculine that feels like they've experienced or encountering a feminine that's not ready to let go of the past, that's still in that moment of mourning, that's still holding on to something that is gone and hoping that something will reemerge there, which is creating that inability of the feminine to be able to see forward. And we see even now, like there's a masculine moving away from that, that holds on to some point of hope that perhaps or perchance that feminine may come into a state of healing, so much so that they may one day desire or be able to articulate to the masculine what they want. So a little bit more patience and a little bit more difficult for the masculine, because the masculine almost again is trying to like build forward in such a way that they're trying to create that space for the feminine of like empathy, while also almost pushing back on their own desire, right? Like, because that's the healed masculine. They're being very conscientious of what is best for feminine versus what is best for the immediate gratification of self. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Ten of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Fool card, which is what we love to see here, because what we're really seeing is what is the breakthrough that's happening right now in separation if you're going through this process. You're recognizing you're making different choices. You recognize that you are arbitrating those choices, that you're moving towards your manifestation goal, and you're not moving towards your manifestation goal holding on to something going, I really hope this changes into what I want it to be. I know it's not, but I really hope it'll change into what I want it to be. You're objectively identifying and saying, this isn't it. Manifestation isn't about transforming. It is about seeking. It is about seeking. It is an activation. And so the ability to recognize and identify that it is not a latent act. It is not a passive act. It is not a wish. That a manifestation is a wish that you act upon. That ability to recognize and say almost to oneself, if I want the things that I want, if I desire the things that I desire, I must also be able to say no to what I do not desire. That is the energy that is feeling like that sense of change within, that creates that feeling of excitement, because that feels like those no's become your yes, because you're turning away from what you don't want towards the direction of what you do. You're turning towards the light and you're letting the shadows fall behind you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, you are feeling the breakthrough point in having made those choices. The problem is when you move into that space and suddenly you receive that, boy, and I'll point this out, the difference that you experience between recognizing the difference between what feels like an energetic lesson of the self versus an energetic lesson of overly internalizing something that was an outside problem. And the best way to identify that is typically if the further you get away from something, the worse it looks, then that's usually a good amplifier of the fact that that was something that you were supposed to move away from, because again, you're getting the clarity the further you go on just how bad something was. Whereas if you're in that modality of looking back and wishing that you could change something, wishing that there was something in the present that you wish you could bring back to a past situation, that's usually the pathwork of the self that allows for that modality of correction. So we see even now for feminine and masculine a little bit different here. For the feminine, that's why we see that sometimes this pathwork can bring up a lot of frustrating feelings, because that modality is like, oh gosh, the further I get from something, the worse it looks, right? It's like the worst. It's like a bad Monet, Well, it's like the masculine energy, that ability of potentially looking and saying, I couldn't bring this forth in that place. I didn't navigate that the way I should have. That moment of correction, like both of these energies going through those, processing those feelings, that doesn't mean that they're not feeling the excitement about where they are, but it is the perception of where they are that is lending deeper perspective on what was experienced in the past that is amplifying that journey going forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is the energy that's breaking new ground. This is the energy that's taking that new direction. The difference here is this is the energy that's doing it together. This is the energy that feels like the alignment point is doing so, but this is the energy that feels like they're taking that step together, because this is the energy that feels like they're in alignment, in relationality to, again, focusing on what those manifestation goals are, which feels like that sense of inevitability and excitement, because this is the energy that feels that similarity in terms of doing something in a different way. And this is the energy that's almost amplifying energetically why it feels like it's different. Because this isn't energy that feels like they're struggling. This isn't energy that feels like they're trying to change what energetically exists between them by taking some different direction. This is the energy that feels like they are grounding what they feel in the tangible space by taking that leap of faith together. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Cups in its reversal, and our Empress card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Look at this. We've got our Devil card in its reversal. Love these cards in combination right now, because this is energy that's healing themselves as they go. This is energy within the divine union. I have to say this even now. This isn't energy that's moving into the manifestation goal for the hope that it will heal something that is broken between the energetic connection. This is energy that is choosing one another because the healing takes place via being an energetic connection between one another. This is the energy that, again, feels like they've already inhabited and experienced their manifestation goal via the counterpart. And that is the energy that is moving forward in that way because it feels like that sense of inevitability. It feels like that sense of like, why, like, there's not even that point of like questioning the direction, because if there's someone that you build towards with that makes it easier, that helps facilitate and see yourself in the way that you aspire and desire, that helps reaffirm your choices while also giving context on what you may need to change and adjust going forward. This is the energy that feels like it's not like they're moving away from themselves and coming into contact with another person. It doesn't feel like they need to change. It feels like they're coming home. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is feeling like you're healing even as you're building a new connection. Because this is the energy that even now there's a bit of a wait and see approach. There's a bit of uncertainty here in terms of where something could go. But the ability of feeling that mutual sense of clarity that you're providing each other is giving context that even this is why this energy isn't rushing this process. Because this energy feels like moving towards someone in this fashion doesn't feel like it's taking them away from their healing journey. It feels like it is completing it. It feels like it is part and parcel a part of it. It feels like it is the next logical step, because these are energies that are healing something and building closure via the healthy connection that they're creating between one another, that is lending insight and clarity on what came before. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is the energetic equivalent of the energy making the healthy choice for themselves. And what's difficult here is there's that moment, I see it, that energetic resistance point. If these were energies that started to build that mutual attraction point, that started to feel that sense of something starting there, and that point that was amplified by an ability to look back on the past and have a similar perception, but it wasn't amplified by a counterpart that was able to articulate upon what they want going forward. This is the feminine energy that feels like they're healing themselves, because this is the feminine energy saying, I'm not going to let my heart space just throw me into that void of someone that isn't able to articulate where I'm giving it. This is the energy of the feminine saying, I'm going to hold my heart carefully. I'm not just going to give my heart away to someone that doesn't tell me where they're going with it. This is the feminine energy that effectively says, I'm going to hold this until I see what someone wants to do with it, where they're going, before I start to give it to someone. So that is the feminine energy coming into a point of resilience that doesn't require the feminine to close their heart space. It requires the feminine to prioritize where they are giving that gift. And that is the feminine elevating the value of their own heart. While for masculine energy right now, in separation, this is the masculine energy saying, I don't want that feminine energy. I feel like there's that ability to move towards the feminine, but if this is a feminine that can't articulate upon what it is that they want, that's a feminine energy that's still healing. That's a feminine energy that may still be looking at the past. That's a feminine energy that may not be ready to look forward. And that's a masculine energy saying, I want to be mindful that if I move the feminine out of that space before they're able to articulate upon what it is they want, the feminine may not feel like they're moving towards that manifestation goal with me so much as it may be that amplification of the feminine not being ready, being too, like, creating that space of like almost that sense of like being energetically unhappy that is expressed in the feminine, almost saying that their choice that they desire is one they feel like they can't have. So we see even now that a lot of that feminine masculine energy, that's that point of compassion saying, I don't want to take advantage of the feminine in that point of wounding. I want to leave them space to heal. While for continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Empress card in its reversal in combination with the Fool card. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Pentacles in its upright. So again, masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is a lot of this work that we're seeing right now that is a direct result of, again, being very clear and cognizant of recognizing where, like when we are working through manifestation goals, being very mindful of what we manifest. Because if there's that ability, right, we want to come into that place of having a manifestation goal that can effectively, doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be able to merge to such an extent that you feel like you can share the manifestation goal, and therefore you feel like you can move forward in a productive fashion towards one another without feeling that polarity of being pulled apart, right? So this is the energy that is, again, practicing a lot of energetic hygiene in recognizing what someone's manifestation goal is versus what yours are, to see if there's a place that they dovetail, and if there's that clarity and being able to articulate what that is, well, that is path work forward. So this is, again, masculine and feminine energy in a point of healing that is articulating and saying the only way to know if that is true is if someone has the ability to articulate upon what it is that they're trying to manifest that is now becoming, again, it isn't an accomplishment to receive that after an energetic connection is made. It is a requirement to be able to establish a clean, hygienic, energetic connection by being able to recognize and identify what it is you're both trying to manifest. Masculine and feminine, they're just coming into that space and they're taking, again, Gemini season, getting very binary on it. It's there or it's not. It's present or it's absent. Regardless as to why, it doesn't matter the context because the outcome is the same regardless of the reasons why. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, I'll tell you again, this isn't energy that's committed on that pathwork of merging their manifestation goals. This is energy that's already found an adaptability point in that overlap, finding that point of energetic connection and the clarity that they're giving one another in what that is, what the shape of that is. That is what is facilitating not only a path forward right now, but also closure on any experiences from the past wherein that wasn't made as clear. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is the energy that is bringing that into tangible focus. This is the energy that's doing a lot of work in bringing that into tangibility and being able to balance that with what is presently current here. That is that energy that recognizes that that is that sense of being, again, mindful and empathetic while also being a very I want to say, like, being, what's the best way to describe this? Being in a point of like, I keep saying this, compassionate but resilient, empathetic, but also maintaining one's own standards to a certain extent and holding firm in that to a certain extent. That is the energy that's almost, again, magnifying the fact that something is present and needs to be navigated effectively. Final card for today's spread, between Devil card in its reversal in combination with our Two of Pentacles in its upright. clarification coming through right now. And this is that 7, we keep seeing this. There's that feeling, again, that expediency, that inevitability, right? Because we see even now, for the energy in the divine union, what's funny about this is like, I see even now that for a lot of the energy in the divine union, there's that moment of like having that energy around them kind of come into adaptability and recognizing and identifying how they feel about things. But the energy within the divine union is almost saying to them, it's already happened. Like it's like the energy is almost like coming into that state of being like, it's not that feeling that requires a choice to be made. This isn't this is the amplification of the energy within divine union saying the difficulty is not bringing something forward to see what someone's opinion is of it. It's almost being like it's a reality. It's the acceptance point. It's occurred. It's present, right? That's that moment that we see right now, which is why we see even now like a lot of that observation energetically is observation, because that's not necessarily a place of like proposition. This isn't energy within the divine union that is proposing the changes that they're effectively making towards those outside of the divine union. This is the energy that's effectively just, and if there's energy around the divine union that feels like that's the case, this is the energy that's almost amplifying and saying this isn't a place or space of a choice being made. This is a moment of being brought into a place of understanding that this is what exists. Like that is like, it's not like, that's what we meant by that like inevitability point in recognizing and saying that the ability of seeing something doesn't come into fruition at the time that you see it. This is the energy being like, you're seeing something for the first time that is present, that is current, that is active, that is there. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is that energetic equivalent that we're seeing, that you're building a connection with someone. And this is what's beautiful about it. This is energy going, well, we haven't really committed anything towards one another. We have a wait and see, but you did. You did. There is a commitment between you. The commitment is clarity. The commitment is choice. The commitment was being able to abandon the energetic outcome by offering that sense of clarity to a counterpart. That immediately, that ability to relinquish the manifestation goal. That's that moment that feels like that point of putting one's compassion towards another above one's own needs, not looking towards an energetic counterpart as a means to an end, but rather building an authentic connection via a connection with counterpart. That is that amplification point, that even if you feel like you haven't made a commitment to each other, you have. And that commitment was the commitment of compassion and clarity through which you're building a strong energetic connection. While for the energy right now that's questioning themselves if they're moving away from something, this is the energy that's remembering that this is the breakthrough within themselves. This is the energy that's saying that that's the choice of not waiting, that a manifestation goal is not an accomplishment to be received after you build a passionate, energetic connection with someone. It is a requirement to facilitate whether one can occur. So we see that a lot of this energy right now, that ability to just look at it and say it's there or it's not, it's present or it's absent, that is the energy that feels like they're healing the self, because this isn't energy that's just moving where their heart guides them. This is energy that is being mindful of the direction or where you're giving your heart and where someone is going to take it. Continuing, bottom of the deck on this read for today is 9 of Cups in its reversal. The problem with this, I'm going to get right back to it. If these are spaces and places wherein a manifestation goal was articulated and someone was not able to respond with one, what's difficult about this is even here, if they are now being brought forth, I'm going to say it again, there's a big difference between a manifestation goal that is freely given versus a manifestation goal that comes forward once it is seen what will occur when one is not being given. So again, a little bit of an impossibility vector here. for some of the energy, which is why we see that there could be some triggering conversations right now, because there's a massive difference between what is just energetically freely articulated upon versus something. If you had to walk away from something and only in that moment is a manifestation goal given, it doesn't feel like it comes from a place of authenticity so much as it feels like someone that is willing to do anything to maintain the status quo. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that feels really frustrating, because that's almost something that feels less like something that is coming from a place of authenticity, so much as it feels like it's coming to try to change one's behavior, to try to generate and maintain, not bring into a change point, but holding on to something and keeping it in a liminal space only by giving something at the moment that you see that something is about to fracture apart. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is that feeling of overwhelm that occurs in the moment that you receive something, that suddenly your focus and your perception changes in any place that you didn't get it. So even now we see that not allowing yourself to come into the overwhelm in that perception or that clarity that you're receiving at a moment that you're getting something with ease, that can be very triggering. So we see that's affecting masculine and feminine in that way, right? Because that's that moment doesn't make something better. It sometimes makes the healing process worse, because it's that moment that something hurts, but in a different way, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is that energy that's kind of in that space or place that, like, regardless of what the energy around them feels about the manifestation goals coming into reality, this is the energy that almost says, like, it's not up for debate. Like, this is the energy. It's like, it's not up for debate. It's not up. It's a take it or leave it kind of situation. That's why we see even now, like, that's the energy that, like, kind of is shrugging their shoulders and doing that work to articulate, but not necessarily to adapt, because these aren't energies that are inclined to change their manifestation goals, because the energy outside the divine union frequency doesn't feels that resistance point. That's the energy that's almost saying, like, that point of, like, intentionality and focus, saying this is what it, like, this isn't a notification of what's going to occur. This is an amplification of articulating what is, right? That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and sharing in this reading. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, gracestrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. And a couple of updates prior to us closing up the reading for today and going into personal readings. First and foremost, we are continuing our tarot classes today. Please, I would love it if you would like to join us at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. We will be focusing our next class on one of my favorite cards in the tarot, the High Priestess card. Previously, we have studied the Fool card and the Magician. If you would like to be a part of tonight's live class, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, gracestrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access to our live class tonight, as well as the course materials and recordings for all of the previous classes. So you still got some time to catch up if you would like to. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've learned thus far. Also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only do you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me, where we will assess where you are in your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you insights in terms of how to utilize the classes and your own pathwork most effectively going forward. One of the things I really tried to do in these classes is make them so that they be useful to both the novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's something there for everyone. So I want to thank you guys so much. If you're already part of those classes, I'm really looking forward to meeting with you tonight, and welcome if you're just joining us for the first time. And even if you don't become a member, a subscriber to my Substack, I would also just encourage you to follow me for free there, because that's where I post my weekly newsletter, which gives you my schedule for when I'm on live, as well as any new events or offerings that I may be delivering. Also, we are doing a giveaway right now for a free tarot reading. All you need to do to enter that giveaway, go to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you an entry. But if you would like to increase your chances of winning, all you need to do is forward that entry to some friends. For each person that you enter, you will also potentially get another entry, because when I pull the winner, I will be asking them who referred them to take that survey, and I will be giving away not one but 2 tarot readings to the winners. So thank you so much if you've already filled out that survey, and I wish you the best of luck winning. Finally, I have some new offerings that I am offering my clientele. First is mentorship classes. Those are one-on-one classes that you can have with me that can be purchased either on an individual level or as a discounted rate on a full month's worth of classes for 45-minute classes. Those classes are focused on the area or subject of your choosing. For that reason, I take a very limited number of students in that capacity. Also, for my clients who are seeking more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to be offering now weekly tarot insight packages, which is a discounted package rate on 4 30-minute tarot sessions, so that you can keep weekly up to date on where you are on your own current path work. Again, I want to thank you guys. A lot of the reasons I'm offering these services are by recommendation of my present clientele. So thank you so much. And again, if you have something you'd like me to offer, shoot me an email at gracestrega@gmail.com. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.